more, I'm joined by the Executive Director at the Center for Policy Alternatives, Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu. He joins us live from Colombo. Thanks so much for being with us. You know, many Sri Lankans were worried when the Rajapaksas won the last election, but now, you know, they have an increased majority that actually allows them to make constitutional changes. Tell us what some Sri Lankans are actually fearing at this point.
Well, those who are fearing are probably a minority of the general population because it's a massive victory for President Rajapaksa and his brother, Prime Minister Rajapaksa. But those who are fearing it are those who are involved in human rights work, involved in general dissent. And what they're concerned about is that the space for them to work in will close up almost immediately. Already there has been a certain amount of self-censorship. Some organizations have gone underground. And there is concern, therefore, that with regard to human rights, with regard to transitional justice, with regard to the reconciliation work that followed on from the end of the war, that all of that will no longer be possible.
Okay, so as you were saying, I mean, they did very much win the popular vote here. So it is a minority of Sri Lankans that do have some rather serious concerns. The family, though, however, has been called a dynasty in a sense before, which usually has a negative connotation. But in Sri Lanka, I mean, that family connection seems to have made them more popular. Why is that?
Well, I suppose it's not just Sri Lanka. It's also been a sort of South Asian phenomenon where families have had brothers and mothers and whatever, various members of the family going out and contesting elections and winning. I think it may have to do with some sort of notion of, look, if you are in a position of power and authority, you need to have people around you who you can trust and who better than members of your family, that kind of argument. But dynastic politics is not just a Sri Lankan issue, it's probably a South Asian issue.
Okay. Before I let you go, talk a little bit more about the minority that you were speaking of that does have these concerns. I mean, they are the Tamil minority in Sri Lanka, and now they're concerned with these constitutional changes that the Rajapaksas might make. Do you think any fears are justified, or are these constitutional changes necessary to shore up governing in the country?
Well, the constitutional changes are to provide the president unfettered powers. The previous government came in and brought in checks and balances on the exercise of presidential authority. And those constitutional changes don't just affect the minority, they affect the entire Sri Lankan population. But with regard to the minorities, we're talking about the Tamil minority, and we're talking about the Muslim minority. The Tamil minority, after the defeat of the Tamil Tigers, has been somewhat suppressed, if you like, in terms of their political activity. And what we had in its place, and this was also brought to the fore with the Easter Sunday bombings, which killed more than 250 people, is the Islamophobia and the allegation that there was state sponsorship, and the state sponsorship under President Rajapaksa, Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is now the Prime Minister, that they were completely supportive of this idea of the strong assertion of a singular Buddhist identity, and therefore that this government too will be a majoritarian government. It will have authoritarian in its terms of its outlook. It will have a military mindset because President Rajapaksa has been in the military, and that it would be, in that respect, not one that would entertain the notion of Sri Lanka as being a country based on the idea of unity in diversity, made up of many peoples, multi-ethnic and multi-religious.
Right. Paikiasothy Saravanamuttu, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us from Colombo with your analysis. We appreciate it.